Well, again, I'm not saying that we don't age or decline. I think we will. But many physiologists have argued that we should be living to between 125 and 150. And the average person lives to 78 or 79, depending, or 76 in some parts of the world. So most people are making it, what is that? Anywhere from, let's say 35, well, depending on whether it's the bottom end of the range or the top end of the range, maybe as much as 40 to 60% of what's possible is what people are actually living. There's a lot more available. And I'm not talking about extending your life feeling like crap like most people do when they're 80. I'm talking about feeling amazingly well. That's what's possible. Okay? But we're still gonna age. The difference is, as I said, if you go to a hospital, any hospital in the UK, any hospital in the US, probably here, probably anywhere, there's a big black book with all the causes of death. Because when someone dies, they have to make a death certificate that lists the cause of death. Natural death isn't on there because that doesn't happen in hospitals. But it's entirely, that's what used to happen, is you just get old enough where your body says, oh, that's enough. But what if that were 125 and you felt perfectly fine? Like you had a busy, active day, right? I'll be body surfing, right? Enjoying my life, doing everything I normally do, and then I go to sleep and I never wake up because my body's like, that's enough. Never sick, never feeling bad, not 2 years in pain, connected to machines. I don't think that ever has to happen. Okay, that's the difference. Yeah, we're gonna die. I don't know that it's possible to live forever. I would encourage you to think about it from a slightly different perspective. And the perspective is this, bless you. We're not our physical body. I would encourage you to just consider the possibility that you're not your body. We act like we're the body. Someone dies, right? The body dies, and we say, well, they died. Well, the body died. But I don't believe we ever do. I believe we're eternal beings. How many of you have had an experience that makes you believe this is the case? Look around. That's a lot of people, right? There's some amazing examples of this. There's an interesting book called Many Lives, Many Masters. Anyone know it? It was written by an MD named Brian Weiss, a psychiatrist. And he didn't really believe, I think, in reincarnation. But he had a difficult case that was referred to him. A woman who'd gone to everyone else. He was like the most expensive guy in town. He was the gold standard. And she'd gone to everyone else. No one could help her. She had dozens of phobias, right? She was afraid of getting in an elevator. She was afraid of, like, if you light a candle in front of her, she'd freak out. She was afraid of everything. And it was kind of hard to live that way when you're filled with anxiety all the time. So she had gone to all these psychiatrists, and she finally wound up in his office. And he tried everything he could think of, and nothing worked. And he was trained to do clinical hypnosis, but he didn't really use it very often. But he thought, nothing else has worked, maybe I'll hypnotize her. So he hypnotizes her, and under this hypnotic trance, she takes on a completely different personality. And this not particularly highly educated woman recalls all the details of some distant time and place. And she recounts her life story, part of this life story, up until, let's say in this one example, she's buried alive. That's how she dies. She's buried alive. And she wakes up out of this hypnotic trance, and she's no longer afraid of she can get on the elevator when she leaves the building, right? It shifts instantly as a result of reliving that experience. In another case, she was burned at the stake as a witch in Salem, Massachusetts. And as soon as she relives that, she's no longer afraid of fire. And over the course of a year or two, every week they meet, And she has, I mean, dozens of different personalities, each in a different time and place. And he actually, I mean, he took notes. He went and all the facts checked out. Like she knew the specific, like the geography, the architecture of some ancient city. She had all these details. She wasn't a historian, right? She knew all this stuff. And that's just one example. There's others, but it's a pretty powerful book. Anyway, I believe in reincarnation. I believe we're eternal beings. I don't know if I ever told you this, but years ago we were in our first location. The first location was a good-sized house outside of Washington, D.C., in a wealthy suburb. It was actually the same neighborhood as my high school, where I went to high school. And it was that, by the way, someone asked me last night about the Tanglewood name. That house was on Tanglewood Drive, and I like the name. That's where the name came from. So we had space there, I think, for 9 guests, plus myself and a volunteer. And one day, we had a relatively short driveway, maybe 20 or 30 meters at the most, from the street to the front door. Big houses on small lots. And so one day, as I'm walking through the front of the building, I see this group of men and women approaching the front door. And men are in dark suits and the women are in dark dresses. And I'm thinking to myself, I know who this is. It's IBM. No, Jehovah's Witnesses. IBM doesn't go door to door that often. But sure enough, doorbell rings. I open the door and someone says to me, "Do you have a relationship with God?" And I said, "I am God."
Oh, that was bold.
And they didn't know what to do with that. It kind of shut down the conversation, which was my intention. Okay, I didn't really want to stand there and have a philosophical discussion with a bunch of Jehovah's Witnesses who believe they need to help you see the light and become a witness yourself. So the point is, I actually believe that. Now, I don't believe I am the God. I believe that I and you, each of us, is part of the divine creative energy of the universe, that we're creating everything that shows up in our lives all the time. And we're doing it whether we know it or not. And if you're one of those people who's going through life with a negative attitude, guess what? You're going to create some ugly shit in your life. Because you're creating what you're thinking about, what you're focusing on. So if you're going through life telling yourself there's never enough, life's not fair, the universe goes, okay, you want to see that? Here you go. Here's more of that. Okay? If, on the other hand, you believe we live in a completely abundant universe, you can create anything you choose to. And that's what I believe. That's been my experience. Okay? Some of you don't know the story, and I'm not going to bore you with the details right now. But when I went to Panama, I signed a lease option on a property there. And I invested everything in the property. And when several years later it was time to sign the purchase contract, I said to the owners, I said, okay, I'm ready to sign a contract. So they got me a contract. We'd had some conversation. I lost my place in the U.S. The market dropped. The place was in the market for $1.2 million, and the market went in the toilet, and I couldn't sell it at that price. I wound up giving it back to the bank because it was worth less, apparently, than my mortgage balance. And so I thought I was going to have a bunch of equity to buy this place. I didn't have it. And I told them, I need some more time, and they didn't give me more time. You know what I did? I sent a letter to my client list, thousands of clients that I'd helped over the years, and I said, I need $175,000 in 2 weeks. And I got it. People sent me checks, bank transfers. Most of it came in small pieces, but I raised the money I needed. And I said to them, okay, I'm ready. And they got me a contract, and then they refused to sign it because they'd had the property appraised, and the property, because of my work, was worth almost $1 million more than I owed them. And they didn't want to lose that. Okay? Long story short, we went into litigation. 3 years later, they bribed the judge, and I lost everything I owned. And so in September, it'll be 8 years ago, I got on a bus from Panama, the next door neighbor, to Costa Rica with 2 suitcases and $200, and I started over 8 years ago. And I started out, I went to a retreat center. I contacted, I was in Toronto, Canada, when this happened. I got an email from my assistant who said, the police are here with the judge and they're throwing us out. They're evicting us. I'm like, what do you mean? How can they evict us? As far as I knew, there'd been no decision. What they did was they bribed my lawyers, who didn't tell me, that they'd taken the decision 6 months, 9 months earlier. They waited for the statute of appeals to expire. I couldn't appeal the decision. And then they came and evicted us. And they seized everything on site. So I lost everything I owned, which is where all the files, someone asked me about all the old files. They were locked they padlocked the property. I couldn't get in. And everything in there, including all my files, all my records, everything, gone. History. I started over again. I wound up at a retreat center in Costa Rica. People I knew, I contacted them and said, hey, I've got clients coming to fast. I don't have a place. Can I rent space from you? And it turned out it was September, October that I needed the space, the rainiest months of the year. October, November, really rainiest months, but they didn't have anything going on then. And so they had the space available. I rented the space from them. And I'd been there about a week. I picked up a local newspaper and I'm looking at the classified ads when the owner of the property that I'm renting walks in. And he says, what are you doing? I said, I'm looking for my next place. And he starts laughing. He says, how are you gonna get another place? You don't have anything. You lost everything you own. You have nothing. I mean, I paid them all the money I had to rent the place. I didn't even have enough. They let me make a down payment and pay the rest over time. How are you gonna get a place? I said, I don't know, but I am. Okay, and here we are. There's nothing you can't create, right? If you know that your power, there's nothing you can't create. If you believe you're a victim, you're giving away your power and you're going to be miserable. And it's a choice. It's a simple choice. Okay, so you want to think really carefully about how you're choosing to be. How are you choosing to interact with what shows up? What are you allowing to upset you? Why? You get to choose. Okay? So it's so critically important because ultimately I believe we all want the same thing. I don't care where you're from. I don't care what you do. I don't care what your background is. We all want the same thing. What is that one thing we all want? To be happy. Everyone wants to be happy. That's all they want. Everything we do, from the relationships we go into, to the jobs we take or don't take, to the cars everything else we do, it's about trying to make ourselves happy. Can I tell you a secret? Happiness does not come from outside of you. It's a choice. It's inside all the time. It's available to you anytime. You can be happy while you're in physical pain. You can be happy. I've been there. I've done that. I've had people who are miserable say to me, oh, well, I'm in pain. Of course I'm unhappy. What do you mean, of course? You can still be happy. So maybe a little more challenging, but you can still be happy while you're in pain, no matter what's happening. You just lost everything you owned. You can be happy about that. You might not be, but it's possible. And the way to do it is to remember that we don't know the outcome, right? We think that something's terrible. Has anything ever happened to you that you were sure was a terrible thing, and later you realize, maybe that wasn't such a bad thing after all? Has it ever happened to you? It's happened to everyone. Have you ever had a relationship end, and you thought, how can I live without this person? And today you're going, thank God, right? Thank God that didn't happen. Or I got out of that one. What if we had 2020, we have 2020 hindsight, right? We can look back and say, oh, that's clear. What if we could see the same thing now? Instead of waiting for the future to look back and go, oh, that wasn't such a, what if we could just remember in the moment when something happens, maybe this is a good thing. Maybe this is going to benefit me somehow. What if we could remember that? Wouldn't that completely change the tenor of our lives? We'd interact with everything differently. Instead of going, oh, this is terrible, we'd be able to go. I don't know. Maybe this is exactly what needed to happen. I had a beautiful place in Panama. It was comfortable, it was beautiful. I could have probably stayed there forever. I might still be there today. But it wasn't perfect, okay? They're lovely Panamanians, but on average, Panamanians are not happy people. I don't know why, but they all walk around like they got a stick in their butt, okay? Not all of them, but a lot of them. I don't know why. It's just how it is. Populations are different, okay? The Costa Ricans have been called the happiest people on the planet various times. I mean, like over and over again. Well, there's organizations that say that this is who these people, Costa Ricans, happiest people on the planet. Look how beautiful these people are. Smiling, always happy to help you. Not every Costa Rican's like that, but the majority of them are. Okay? I always wanted to be in Costa Rica, and I wound up in Panama. Just things how they happened. I'm very glad to be here. But maybe it wouldn't have happened unless that's what had happened to me. Maybe I'd still be there. My goal was to find a place we could operate from and create a community at the same time. And we wound up in a place where we had a good spot to operate from, but it wasn't going to work for a community. I found a site. It was pretty nice. But it was like 7 hours away. How was I ever going to develop that while I'm operating Tanglewood? Okay? I wound up here. I was just looking for a place to operate from at the time. Figured I'd deal with the rest later. And found out by accident that the highest waterfall in Central America, by the way, having a waterfall on my property was always on my list of requirements. The place I had in Panama, I actually bought a big farm in Panama. I was making payments. I lost that too. I didn't have money to pay for it. I'd made payments for 3 years and wound up losing it. Lost everything. And it's okay, because it's only stuff. I didn't lose my health. I didn't lose my sanity. I didn't lose my experience, my knowledge. I didn't lose my friends. I didn't lose my clients. I had clients that wrote to register to come fast. I said, okay, but I'm not in Panama. I'm in Costa Rica. Like, that's okay. We don't care. They weren't going for the place. Okay? The stuff in life isn't that important. In fact, it's not important at all. Might make life easier, more comfortable, but if you're expecting stuff to make you happy, you're going to be disappointed. It doesn't work that way. If you're not happy inside, there's no amount of stuff that's going to change that. Well, maybe for a few minutes. You get the new car, that feels pretty good, right? For a week, and then it's not really a big deal anymore. That's been my experience. Stuff is never going to make you happy. And if you're expecting or depending on anything outside of you to make you happy, you're putting yourself in a tough spot. Because if you're good, you might have some control over yourself. You definitely don't have control over anything else. You need it to be sunny to be happy? That's too bad. It might not be sunny. And you can't control that. You need someone to speak to you in a particular way for you to be happy? That's unfortunate, because they may not do that, and you have no control over that. What you have control over is how you interact with whatever shows up in your life. That's completely under your control. I mean, right now, you might have no control over that, but that's something you can change. You might need to learn how, if you're open. Okay? This is something that can shift. And it might be in your best interest to look at that. But this is only for those people that want to be happy. If you don't want to be happy, forget about everything I just said. It doesn't matter. Okay? So I want to share a few more things with you that I think might be useful to you. But that's a really important piece. You want to be clear about this. Okay? Just take a step back. Don't beat yourself up. If you've been walking around in victim consciousness, that's okay. Be aware of it. Make a decision. Are you willing to keep doing that? Is anyone willing to keep doing that? Anyone want to be a victim? Victims are, by definition, powerless. You get to decide what to believe. I choose to believe I create everything. And so I take responsibility for the stuff that shows up in my life that I don't like too. You know what victims do? They look for somebody else to blame. You're giving away your power. Okay? You're ensuring you're going to continue to experience things the way you've been experiencing them. That's what happens. That's a disempowered place to be. I'd like to see you empower yourself. If you've created that ugly mess that's in your life, whatever it is, if you've created that, you can create something different if that's not what you want. But if you're the victim of circumstances or other people, what can you do about it? Does this make sense to everyone? So, remember, you're the powerful creator. Now, if you're the powerful creator, then all that ugly stuff is your fault, right? Up until just now, on purpose, consciously, you haven't heard me say fault, because this isn't about fault. It's not about blaming yourself for anything. Have you been to the mall? Everyone's been to the mall, right?
Yes.
Right? At the mall, there's a big map of the mall, and there's a red arrow that says you are here. Have you seen this? Have you noticed that it doesn't say, and this is how you got here, you dumbass? Have you noticed that? Okay? It doesn't make any difference how you got there. And it doesn't make any difference how you got to wherever you are in your life right now. That's where you are. It doesn't matter because that is all focused on the past. And the past doesn't exist. Only in our memory. Okay? I mean, that's my reality. I know there's people that say, no, every point in time exists at the same time. Okay, I don't know what to do with that. So far, my life has been sequential. One moment after the next. The last moment, yeah, it's gone. I've only got this one. In this moment, if I know where I am, I can make any choice I want to make. There's nothing you can't choose in this moment. It's up to you. I truly believe that with the exception of a few practical limitations, generally speaking, the only real limitations we have, effectively, the only real limitations we have, are the ones we create for ourselves, the ones we believe exist. And most people are going through their life subconsciously telling themselves things like, maybe unconsciously telling themselves things like, I'm not good enough, I can't do that. Who do I think I am? Okay? But there really is nothing preventing you from manifesting anything you choose to manifest, including a high level of health, including an amazingly high level of health. Now, in order for that to happen, you're going to have to find a way, as difficult or as impossible as this may seem for some of you, you're going to have to find a way to love yourself. I know it seems impossible, but you can do it anyway. It's about finding a way to accept every part of yourself. Because most of us, at some level, believe that if people could see who we really were, they'd run screaming away from us. Right? I've had the privilege of traveling and speaking all over the world. I've met people in 70-some countries. People are the same everywhere you go. They want the same things. They're afraid of the same things. It's all the same. Inside, people are the same. Okay? There's nothing preventing you from doing anything anyone else has already done, except your beliefs about that. So what are you telling yourself? Where's the evidence for those beliefs? Okay? Take a hard look at that stuff. It may not be easy, it may not be comfortable, right? But do it anyway. Be willing to face your emotions all the time. Okay? Get comfortable enough that you're willing to experience whatever emotion's coming up for you. Not to try to suppress it, but to simply experience it and then let it go. Don't hold on to it. Somebody once said, pain in life is inevitable. Have you lost anybody you loved? Anyone died in your life? Of course, right? People die, relationships end, things change. Okay, pain, you're going to suffer pain sometimes. Pain in life is inevitable. Suffering is optional. You suffer when you refuse to let go. That's where suffering comes from. If you're willing to experience something and let it go, there's no suffering necessary. There's no suffering possible. Okay? So, begin practicing right now while you're here. You have an amazing opportunity that you probably don't have in your normal life, because you have a little bit more free time on your hands. So every hour maybe, okay, check in and ask your subconscious, what emotion am I feeling right now? Or perhaps, for some of you, what emotion am I trying to avoid feeling right now? And then just listen for the answer. Get quiet and listen. Your subconscious mind is like the most powerful supercomputer on the planet. You ask it an open-ended question, it will find the answer for you. Remember, there are many people who say, especially very spiritual traditions, we shouldn't judge. Don't judge. We shouldn't judge other people. Have you heard that before? Has anyone stopped judging, even for a moment? Be honest. That's a dumb question. That's a judgment. We're judging all the time. I think it's part of the nature of being human. But you know what? I don't believe judging is the problem. Not as long as we can remember that our judgments are just judgments. And a judgment is what? It's a belief. It's an idea. Is it the truth? No. I mean, it could be true, but having a judgment doesn't make it the truth. If you can remember your judgments are just your own beliefs about something, you can stop interacting with them like they're the law, the Holy Grail. Stop believing them. You can entertain them. Oh, look, that's an interesting judgment. Okay? But it doesn't make it true. And when you know it's not the truth, now it's not affecting you in the same way. It's not limiting you in the same way. When you realize it's a judgment, it's now possible to change your mind a moment later. Have you ever met someone you thought was an idiot, and then you later realize maybe not so much of an idiot? Okay, it's only possible to have that experience if you recognize that judgment's not a fact, it's just a judgment. Or maybe the other way. You realize they're twice the idiot you thought they were. Right? Okay. We're going to keep judging. That's okay. Just recognize that your judgments are judgments. Don't give them too much power. They don't deserve it. They're just ideas. Okay? Any questions about anything we've talked about here today so far?
Well, I just have a comment, in that, my experience with raw foods and fruitarianism, I initially stopped eating cooked foods because I was having suicidal thoughts persistently. And I just went to a regular raw diet that wasn't really structured. And all suicidal thoughts completely went away, like none, no depression. And then when I went to fruitarianism or fruit-based diet, one thing I don't hear that often, you know, we do feel and function and think more clearly and feel amazing, but the mood is so good, that the mood is bright, like there's no depression.
Right.
There might be discontent with areas of my life that need change,
Sure.
but I feel happy the whole time.
Right.
And that makes it a lot easier to have a correct, positive attitude.
Absolutely.
And so then it becomes very transformative because it's
No.
already
Yeah.
so much energy. So you have positive ideas and brainstorming might happen or inspiration, and then you have all the energy and wellness to follow through with it.
Absolutely true.
And it's just powerful. I
Yeah.
love it.
There's no question. There's no question about this. What you eat and the condition, the toxicity of your body has a significant impact on how you feel emotionally. In ancient Greece, the original Olympians, the athletes, lived on a diet of primarily fruit. Okay, they had amazing physiques, they functioned at their best. But the soldiers were fed meat. Why do you think they did that?
To make them angry.
To make them aggressive.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. That's what happens. Okay, if you've got toxic chemicals in your body from eating processed crap, you better believe it's going to impact how you feel emotionally. How could it not impact you? It does. Your experience is a common experience. You change your diet, you feel better. We've had many people come here who came in depressed, lots of anxiety, and leave feeling happy and buoyant because they get the garbage out of their body. Now, unfortunately, between point A and point C, you've got to go through a process which, as that garbage is being released back into the bloodstream to be eliminated from the body, you might not feel so good. You might not feel so positive. What you want to do is be emotionally mature enough to recognize that that's happening because of what's going on for you internally, and stop blaming anything outside of you for how you feel, which was what happens often. Okay? That's not useful. Then again, take responsibility. No matter what happens, nothing can make you angry. Okay, negative emotions. I mean, I'm not saying we can't trigger anger in other people. Of course we can. Because we're not enlightened yet. It would have been pretty hard to piss off the Buddha, because the Buddha understood that your anger had nothing to do with him. He didn't take anything personally. Why would he? Okay? If you truly love yourself unconditionally, it doesn't matter what anyone else does, says, or thinks. Why would that affect you? How's it going to move you off your center? It doesn't. Okay? The fact that each of us is able to be moved off of our center sometimes, that's a testimony to the fact that we're not enlightened yet. That's probably not surprising, right? You might have already realized that. But in case you're one of those people walking around thinking you were enlightened, you're probably not. Not yet. Okay, none of us are. That's okay. We're here to learn and grow. How do we learn and grow? How do we do that? Do we do that by doing everything exactly right? Does anyone learn from that? No, we learn by making mistakes. Don't beat yourself up if you make mistakes.
You know, there's actually brain research that shows that. They haven't done it on adults, but they've done it on kids.
That shows what?
When you take risks and you make a mistake, more synapses and.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, yeah.
But if you always know the answer, your brain cells don't.
That's right,
Synapses don't light up.
right. Everyone get that? Okay, this is completely clear. Frankly, it's one of those studies I would have gone like, well, duh, right? This is how we learn. In fact, if what you want to do is have an easy, comfortable life, okay, let's say you don't want to fail, you're afraid of failure, you're afraid of taking risks, yeah, you can absolutely live a life where you never, ever fail. Just don't ever try. Just never, ever step out of your comfort zone. Don't expect to grow at all. You won't. That would be impossible. You're only going to grow if you're willing to get uncomfortable. Okay? Losing the place in Panama wasn't the only serious challenge I've had. I've had quite a few challenges in my life along those lines. And I'm grateful for each one of them. Every single thing that's happened. Has anyone here ever seen Run, Lola, Run?
I've seen the trailer. Yeah.
It's a great movie. It came out probably 25 or 30 years ago, German movie. And I'll give you the outline of it. Movie opens up with a young girl in her apartment. She's 18, 19 maybe, something like that. Phone rings. She picks it up. It's her boyfriend. He's got a problem. And she runs out the door and runs across town. And the movie is essentially her running across town for half an hour. She gets to the boyfriend, and there's a conclusion there. You know, it only takes a few minutes when she gets there. And I saw this in the movie theater when it came out. And it's over. And I'm looking at my watch going, that's the shortest, it's like 30 minutes, shortest feature film I've ever seen. Like I just paid, $15 for that. Whatever it was back then. And then, all of a sudden, it's back, right? It looked like it was over, back on the screen. Same scene, phone rings, it's the exact same scene. You're just seeing it over again. Phone rings, she picks it up. It's her boyfriend, he's got a problem. She runs out the door. This time, there's some people sitting on the steps in front of her apartment. And so it takes her an extra few seconds to get to the sidewalk. Everything changes. Because she's a few seconds behind. And then it ends. And then it's once again, third time. She's back in the apartment, phone rings. Something else, again, shifts the journey, changes a little bit, and everything is different. What if every single thing in your life needed to happen? First of all, how many of you are glad to be here right now, in this place? Okay? For some of you, this may wind up being the most powerful, beneficial thing you've ever done for yourself. For most of you. Okay? It's not going to happen if you're not open to that possibility. But if you're open to that possibility, that's what's likely to be the case. Because most are going to leave here feeling and functioning better than you ever have. So, if this is a positive thing, being here, maybe you should be grateful for every single thing that's happened in your life up until now. Everything. Because maybe if that one thing hadn't happened 20 years ago, you wouldn't be here today. Who knows? Everything affects everything else. I was involved in putting on an event in the Washington, D.C. area 20 or 25 years ago. There's 50 or 60 people there for a weekend. And there was a woman who was part of the group. And it became obvious to everyone except her that she was, everything she said, everything she did, she was one giant reaction to her ex-husband. Does that sound pretty disempowered? It's pretty disempowered, right? No, it's way more disempowered than you think, okay? Because she'd been divorced for 27 years. Lady, move on. Let go. It's time to drop it. Like everything she was thinking and saying was about her ex. Lady, what the heck? That's 30 years ago. But that's what people do. They stay stuck in the past or on the future. And life only happens in this moment. And in this moment, you can choose how to interact with it. So if you're unhappy, ask yourself, what's going on? Why are you unhappy? Because this asshole just keeps on droning on about shit I don't care about. Whatever. But I mean, is that true? Is that real? Does that have to make you unhappy? Do you want to be unhappy? Because we're creating everything. If you want to create a different outcome, it's up to you. You're completely empowered to do that. You get to choose. Take a look and see, what are you choosing on a moment-to-moment basis? How are you interacting with whatever shows up? Why are you doing that? Okay? It's completely up to you. You know, just a quick additional piece here. How do we get positive if we're stuck? Okay? Remember, the universe is simply mirroring back to us where our focus is. So when you wake up in the morning, okay, you have an assignment, right, every day for the rest of your time. You don't, whether you do it or not, it's up to you. But here's yours. I'm going to give you the assignment anyway. Your assignment is every day. Maybe have a journal if you have one, or it could be pages. You can always add it to another journal later on if you like. Make a list of 3 things that you're grateful for every morning.
Why are you doing that?
Okay? Because if you start out your day by focusing on gratitude, the universe goes, a grateful one. Let's give this person more to be grateful for. I don't know about you. I wake up every single day, and first thing is, I'm awake. I survived. I'm still here. It's a good day, yeah? Okay? I'm in paradise, right? I'm not freezing cold. It's beautiful here. I look out my window. You can look out your window. There's probably something flowering. There might be a hummingbird. There might be, we're in paradise. Look around. Nature inspires me. I don't know about you. Every single day I wake up and I think, how grateful am I to be here? To be breathing, to feel good, to be in this place, to be living this life. And what I would encourage you to do is every day add 3 things, and they have to be different than the things you wrote the day before. Now, how do you know they're different? Easy. You start by reading what you've already written every day. So if you're here for 2 more weeks, 3 more weeks, that means by the end of the day, you're going to be reading 63 things. They're little tiny, it's like a word or 2, right? Maybe a few words, not a big deal. Might take you 5 minutes. Read the list and then add 3 new different things. You could be grateful for that particular flower, for the amazing insect you saw. Some of you probably don't like insects. I'm constantly blown away by insects here. Like amazing things. Incredible. Okay? Be grateful for the people around you. Be grateful for those people that push your buttons. Because if you don't get your buttons pushed, you're not going to learn. You're not going to grow. They're helping you. They're facilitating your growth. Okay? Start paying attention to how fortunate you really are. The fact that you're here means you're among the wealthiest 2-3% in the world. To be able to be here right now. Okay? Every one of us has so much to be grateful for. You've probably heard this before, right? I cried because I had no shoes. And then I met a man who had no feet. Each one of us here we're pretty fortunate. Every one of us has countless blessings. Don't forget that. Don't ever forget that. No matter how difficult things may sometimes be. Okay, if you can remember everything there's to be grateful for, and you can remember that what seems to be a challenge right now might actually be your greatest benefit, then you can completely shift how you interact with everything.